Hi, my name's NBZ. You may remember me from such hit videos as Narrated Wi-Fi Battle number 67 versus Nick, or Narrated Wi-Fi Battle number 340 versus Nick, or Narrated Wi-Fi Battle number 516 versus Nick, or Narrated Wi-Fi Battle number 777 versus Nick, or Narrated Wi-Fi Battle number 76,944 versus Nick. But if you don't know me from any of those, then you'll surely know me from my world-renowned Twilight Princess Let's Play. And if somehow you still don't know me from any of those amazing pieces of work, then hi, I will introduce myself now. I'm MBZ. I talk about video games a lot on the internet. I do a podcast, it's called This Nintendo Life. You can find it on iTunes, it's out every 2 weeks. Please subscribe. And I have decided to make a new show. This show will talk about my favourite games. How did I come to know about these games? When did I play them? Who were the people around me? What were the stories back then? And how do they hold up today? So I hope you'll join me. I hope it'll be fun. And I hope we'll explore the past, present, and future. The year was 2004. You all remember it, right? That year when Wangari Maathai won the Nobel Peace Prize. I mean, who could forget? It was also the year that Friends finally came to an end. I can't believe it's still gone. I miss it so much. It was also the year before the first series of The Apprentice. No, not with him. With him. Not that he's much better. But most important of all, it was the release of Fire Emblem on the Game Boy Advance. I was but a wee lad, my final year of prep school, and we had an exchange student come over from Germany. His name was Philip, and he had a Game Boy Advance, and that was cool at the time because I knew some people who had them, but not really many. I was a big gamer, not many of my friends were super into it, aside from, the Ali T's and the Ballies of the world.
Tackle!
But this guy, Philip, he had a magical box, and inside was a cartridge. The cartridge contained the original Fire Emblem on the Game Boy Advance. And so, because he was an exchange student, one weekend he had to stay with our family, which meant that he basically sat in his room and played Game Boy Advance the whole time, which I don't blame him for. I probably would have done the same. But we did go out one day to a hill for a walk, for some fresh air, if you may. I remember sitting in the car and I said, "Hey Philip, can I play a bit of that Game Boy Advance?" And he was like, "Okay, yeah, I will give to you." And he gave it to me. I started playing Fire Emblem. And as they say, ladies and gentlemen, history was made. For the remainder of the car journey, and even when we got out of the car and started walking around, was glued to this GBA screen playing this wonderful game that I had never heard of before, and was enthralled by. Of course, I didn't own the game, so I eventually had to give it back to him, but that was what set me on this path that I now tread today. If Philip from Germany had never visited, who knows if I would have ever played Fire Emblem. I could give you endless reasons about why I love the Fire Emblem series, but why this game in particular? What is it that's so special about the original GBA release? Well, for starters, it was my first one. Now, let me make it clear, I never actually owned this game on GBA. I owned the Sacred Stones, I owned Shadow Dragon on DS, obviously Awakening, and many others in the years to come. But this game was one that eluded me, and I didn't actually go back to until many years later via emulation. That said, things stuck with me from my first playing of the game when Philip brought it over. When I got to Chapter 5 and finally had a Pegasus in Florina, and in that same chapter lost her to a bow and arrow, giving me a hard lesson that I'd have to take forward into further Fire Emblem games. When I try and remember the story of the original game, I don't recall that much, but what I do remember are the characters. Lyn, Hector, and Eliwood, a trio of lords, all of whom are unique and different and varied and just kick ass. The dialogue is engaging and well written, and you always want to go after those support conversations just to build out the backstory of the other members of your team. I also love how everything looks in this game. There's such a colour and a vibrancy to the sprites and the artwork. Everything looks unique and well designed, and all the characters stand out and I can remember them in my mind. The animations may also be my favourite in any game I've ever played. they have this incredibly satisfying crunch to them with every hit. There's an elegance to the strategy, with 2 separate weapons triangles that are easy to understand but satisfying to execute. And just moving your units around feels good. There's a lot of feel good in this game, from the silky smooth animations to the fantastic sound design. The simple act of a character leveling up is an audio-visual treat as you sit there on the brink hoping for your numbers to tick up and up to gain more power and change your class. I'll never forget getting my first paladin or berserker and seeing how goddamn awesome they looked. Oh, and did I mention, it has the best save system in the history of video games. You know those times when your mother would call you and say, "It's dinner, turn off your Game Boy Advance," and you'd be like, "No, Mum, save point, I can't save." Guess what? Turn off your GBA. If you're in the middle of a map, it'll save your exact progress, and as soon as you turn it back on, you're right back into it. Not even the modern Fire Emblem games do this. And I think that gets to the core of what's so special about this game. It's a streamlined experience from start to finish, one that is so polished, clean, unique, and brilliant, and I love it for every single one of those aspects. As I've already mentioned, the first time I beat this game was on an emulator, so I'm not quite sure the time and place of when I actually finished this game for the first time. It was probably sitting at home in front of the TV with my laptop, just one day in 2007 or 8. I had my army ready and I was able to kill a dragon. Now, I'd seen Foe Mortis and Sacred Stones, and that was a pretty cool final boss, but there's something special about dragons, man. They just look incredible and badass and threatening, and when you fell one, especially when its HP is just question marks to begin with, you feel like a god.
Critical hits, critical hits, critical hits, critical hits, critical hits, critical hits, they are so critical, oh so critical hits. Critical hits, they are so very critical hits.
So, I love Fire Emblem. It is one of my favourite games, but is that just nostalgia speaking? Was I just an impressionable young lad who was handed a GBA and thought, well, this looks like a thing I would enjoy, and therefore continue to enjoy it no matter the quality? Or does that hold up to further scrutiny? Can I sit here today and in good conscience tell you, you should go play Fire Emblem because it's a really good video game that is still great by the modern classics of the era? I'm going to say yes. Fire Emblem has aged incredibly well. The artwork, because it's a GBA game, just like the Super Nintendo, is like a fine wine. It just gets better over time as we see all these polygonal, high-def things come and pass and eventually fade into obscurity. The good old, high-quality pixel art will never change. Yes, the new Fire Emblem games are great, and they have sold accordingly because they are really good, but there's something to be said for the simplicity of the originals. There's no 3D, there's no waifus, there's no pairing up. This is just core Fire Emblem at its base level, and it still holds up today. So if you've never played it before, give it a try. I guarantee you, you'll not be disappointed. Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen, that's the video. I hope you enjoyed it. This is something a little different from me. I want to try my hand at maybe getting a bit in deep with the editing and see what came out of it. I think I did an okay job. I don't know. Please let me know in the comments. I'd be really appreciative of. And if you could share this video around with people, it'd be cool. Because this took a long time. Don't know how long it takes. Oh boy. A lot of hours, but I've enjoyed making it, and I hope you guys enjoyed watching it. And I hope to make this a regular series on my channel. We'll see how it goes, but so far I like this format, and I think it's a cool one to stick with. If you want to see some more stuff from me and you haven't seen me before, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm at LordNBZ. Twitch is LordNBZ as well. And if you like Fire Emblem, you can check out my Let's Play. I did a full Let's Play of this game by clicking in the top. And if you want to hear me talk about video games some more, on a podcast, you can do that on This Nintendo Life, which, as I mentioned previously in the video, is my Nintendo podcast, where I go a bit more in-depth and analysis on video games with my friend Bally, and you can find that on my channel too. So, thanks for watching, hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye, folks.